Good evening, Year 11. Your first maths paper is tomorrow morning, and this video is just your night before news to go through some last minute revision, and make sure that if you're watching this video that you are doing the higher tier paper. If not, please go and watch the other video. So I guess the most important question and the thing you want to know the most is what's going to be in this exam. Well, the exams are unseen, which means that we have not been able to see them, and much like your real exams, pretty much anything can come up across any of the three papers. Now, because this is a paper one, it does mean that obviously it's non-calculator, so there are some things that would be, extremely unlikely to come up. Think about things like iteration, rely so heavily on your calculator. So some of these common things that will tend to come up in a non-calculator paper would be things like for operations. So think about adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, but including decimals, so maybe dividing with decimals, multiplying with decimals, and will often be a theme sort of running through other topics. So it could be embedded into something like a compound measures question where you might have to calculate mass given density and volume, and they might be quite large numbers or they might have decimals in them. But additionally could be standalone, so like a question towards the beginning of the paper could just be a adding fractions question, for example. So that brings me on to the next one, which would be percentages as well. So non-calculator type percentage problems. You've got estimation, you can't use a calculator for estimation, so you want to think about rounding your values and then using those rounded values to make your estimation. So please make sure you're reading the question carefully. Don't waste any time spending a long time calculating something exactly, which could be quite tricky to do and quite easy to get wrong if it has asked you to estimate. Anything index laws could be a non-calculator paper, and it's quite common in a non-calculator paper. Think about as well negative and fractional indices on top of like your multiplying and dividing and raising a power to a second power. Think about solving equations involving indices, and anything that might require you to evaluate a number. Well, they wouldn't give you a calculator for something like that because you could just type it in. So anything sort of index numbers and index laws could well come up. Algebra will be in all three of your papers, but think about simplifying, expanding, factorising, solving, rearranging, forming and solving. So it might be embedded in something like something to do with geometry, like an area, perimeter. It might be about angles in a polygon. You have to form an equation and then solve it. Ratio, again, quite likely to be in all three papers, but might be something you want to look at revising tonight. Surds, definitely. If it's a surds question, it's highly likely that it will be in paper one over the other two, although it could still come up in the other two. But I would think about, prioritising surds tonight. Exact trigonometric values, if that comes up, that may well be in tomorrow's paper, because again it's something that they wouldn't want you using a calculator for. Functions, again, can easily be done in any of the three papers, but quite often if it comes up in paper one. So thinking about substituting, composite functions, inverse functions, maybe forming and solving an equation involving functions, and quadratic inequalities. Again, quite often towards the end of a paper you'll get a quadratic inequalities question. That tends to be where it sits, towards the back end of a paper. So also likely would be things like algebraic fractions. I say also likely rather than highly likely because a bit more common that algebraic fractions could be in any of the three papers. Simultaneous equations, so just linear simultaneous equations, but also non-linear with circles and with curves. High score factor, low score multiple, angle facts, plotting graphs, error intervals, transformations. Now transformations, we haven't done all of transformations yet, but maybe think about things like reflections, those sort of logical ones that you might be able to work out. And then anything to do with circles, area, circumference, maybe it's the area of a sector or the arc length, volume of a sphere, volume of a cone, possible, probability, somewhere that's going to come up across your 3 papers and possibly more than once. Pythagoras, area, circle theorems, functions, statistics, so statistical representations, thinking about graphs, and more. So what should you do this evening? Now, there are obviously some things that I've just mentioned that you haven't studied yet, and I do want to reiterate the message that we are aware we're giving you a full set of papers prior to having finished the scheme of work, and so there are some things that you're not going to be able to answer, and we expect that, and we don't that doesn't count against you in any way. So don't worry if I've listed something there, for example, circle theorems, and that's not something we've studied yet. Would not be a good idea to prioritise that. But what you can do is you can think about either targeting specific topics, which is what I want to talk about first. So we've got a great resource, obviously, in Sparks Maths, and obviously we get homework set every week with that, but you might be less familiar with using the independent practice on there. So when you log in and you've got your list of compulsory and your target down the side, just click on that final one, independent learning. Make sure that the curriculum is set to GCSE. I think when I tried to look at this myself, it was automatically set on Key Stage 3, so just have a look. And then you can just type in, you can see I've typed in SERDs there, and there's a variety of questions and tasks surrounding SERDs that I could click on, and I could have a go at the questions, I could watch the videos if I needed to. Additionally, we've got a website called ExamQ. If you just Google ExamQ, it will come up. And when you open up ExamQ, it looks like this. Make sure you've selected GCSE Maths Higher from Edexcel, and I would select Paper 1 non-calculated so that you're seeing only Paper 1 topics. And then you can type in your topic and again select what you want to look at. So again, I looked at here fractional indices, and then you'll notice that next to the question there is a mark scheme, and if you click on that, it will show you the answer to the question so you can check your work. Also a website called Maths Genie, again just type that in and it will pop up, and you can look at the GCSE revision at the top there, or you can click on that button on the main page. Core Bit Maths, again when you log in at the top, it will not log in, sorry, when you search it up, it will look like this at the top, and if you click on videos and worksheets, you'll see a whole alphabetized list of topics, and if you scroll down to find the one you're looking for, so I've just gone for SERDs, and then click practice questions, it will give you some exam style questions on the topic that you have selected, and then you've also got the button to click here. So if you want to look at practice papers instead of just single topic revision, you've got Maths Genie again. So rather than clicking on GCSE revision, click on GCSE papers. Make sure you've selected Edexcel exam papers, or again on that main page there is that button just underneath the GCSE revision button. Finally then, just thinking about tomorrow morning, the hub will be open from 7 AM if you wanted to get in early and do some revision in the hub, and some maths teachers will be down there to give you any help that you need. If you are going to take up that offer, I would advise you to bring some questions that you haven't been able to answer this evening. And then revision in the conservatory/canteen will start from 8 AM. You'll be given a sort of warm-up breakfast grid, which is double-sided and looks a bit like the one on the screen now, and then we'll have a line up at 8:25 before heading over to the arena for your exam. That's everything. I just want to say good luck with your last minute revision, and I'll see you in the morning.